Aloha, I am Councilmember Felicia Cowden, happy to give you a report today from Wednesday, June 19th. I'll begin by noting that it is the holiday, the new state holiday for a few years now, called Juneteenth, which recognizes equality and equity and inclusion, and came out of the Tulsa massacre 100 years ago. I think today is the 100-year anniversary. We also were really honored to have our Lady Warriors, or our female Kauaʻi softball state champions, Division II. So they came in, we got to hear from the players and the coaches, and really had a wonderful time being able to acknowledge them. Then we had two very interesting informational sessions. The first one was from Kauai Island Utility Cooperative. It's basically a follow-up for what we're looking at for their emergency preparedness. Maybe a month ago or a little less, we had Department of Hawaiian Homelands, Agribusiness Development Corporation, and the Department of Land and Natural Resources talking about their fire preparedness. And so this event today largely focused on fire, but really emergencies. And so we got to hear from really some of our important team members from KIUC. And it was Brad Rockwell, John Cox, Cameron Cruz, and Beth Amaro. I want to acknowledge them coming in to work with us. And they had a very good report. They talked about the plans that they've adopted. They actually have got their wildfire mitigation plan adopted in 2024, but their cyber incident response and recovery plan, their hurricane playbook, they are doing very well at working on what they've got going. Another thing that they said that I was really happy to hear, when they're looking at their additional resources if we do have a problem, even for FEMA, the power company would get a 75% reimbursement on recovery costs, because Hurricane Iniki was just devastating, and that's because it's a cooperative. So that was another really great piece. And so we looked at their wildfire readiness framework. They're working pretty aggressively hard with their vegetation management. Now, like if your power lines or your trees are into a power line, they will come out and cut it, but they're not going to do the full tree cut. So you might be better off to get an arborist, but they will come in and work on it. We learned about the drone inspections that they have going on. That's relatively new. That began in 2023. They also are using high resolution infrared and LiDAR. So they are able to inspect their power lines from the air, really be able to work on spotting problems before they really begin. So I was happy about that. We talked about how they do their pole testing to make sure that they're not going to be falling down. Their goal is to get all 1,600 plus poles tested by the end of 2026. They're well on their way. We looked at their conductor modifications and the different types of upgrades that they've been using for their fuses and reclosures, and I learned some new things today, so that was fun. We have 30 new Tempest weather stations. I don't know if you can really see my picture, but I'm going to put it up here. And if you watch the main production of this council meeting on channel 53, where you see the whole thing, you'll be able to go right through the PowerPoint. But so what's great about that is that KIUC is putting up, and I think they have a number of them up already. There's like 30 of them, where they put them up regionally, so they're able to have sensors to let them know when they've got wind blowing or different problems that help it have a higher fire danger rating, and how to be more careful. They have a daily situation awareness tool that's under development, and Yeah, they're looking at putting in these smoke sensors. That's called N5 sensors. We're really working with all kinds of collaboration between the big landowners, governments, the power company is very important, and then our emergency people. So they've got their red flag warning protocols. They have their notification process. So I would say big ups to them. And here's the thing. If you see something that looks dangerous, better is if you can take pictures. I asked about when there's like wet trees really lying into power lines. If you see a problem, you can email to info@kiuc.coop, COOP, and it's the most helpful if you look at the nearest power pole and you give them a picture also of the number for that power pole. So that was a big yay, KIUC. They came in, did a good job. Then our next briefing was on invasive species. So we had 3 organizations followed up by our Parks and Recreation to see how they're doing with the coconut rhinoceros beetle in our golf course. So that's like an example of where we've really worked on it. So we looked at, with the Department of Ag, our concerns. We are vigilant for brown tree snake. We have never identified that yet here on Kauai, but we do have it in the state now, trying to keep it eradicated. Coconut rhinoceros beetle is a new problem that we've had for a couple of years, and we're working hard on that. We watch out for green waste right now. We're not moving green waste from around the islands. We talked about coqui frogs. That's beginning to resurface. We had an outbreak a number of years ago and it got stopped. We need to stop this. We talked about little red fire ants, and then the rose ring parakeets. So one thing that I learned that should be pretty evident, but one of the best things you can do to help your trees, especially with the coconut rhinoceros beetle, is make sure they're well fed. If the tree has a good immune system, it's gonna be able to manage it a lot better. Okay, here's the bad news. They had decided to give us, the state, $20 million for invasive species. But they're going to be cutting that back, probably most likely 50 to 75%, not completely decided yet. But I think they had to redirect some of that funding. A lot of people are really concerned about the rose ring parakeets, both for what it can do as they keep clustering heavier and heavier, 500 to 800 in a tree. It creates quite a bit of excrement below it. That's being tested to make sure it's not too unhealthy, but that's something we want to not have happen. And what we learn about is it's another amazing piece of nature, that these birds are very smart, and so the culling efforts that they put together, they get smarter and smarter. They have to keep figuring out different ways of managing it. I did learn that it will be under request for funding proposal. So if people have companies that have what we call management or culling, they would be getting prepared to do a bid. You would respond to a request for funding proposal and you'd make a bid on it, and that would include how you're going to handle it. There's a rose ring parakeet survey that you can find on the county website, but you could also go Rose Ring Parakeet Survey, Kauai, and they're trying to get people to be sharing what they find, what they see. I learned, because I asked, that you can get test kits from the public library for the tiny red fire ant. we need to be very vigilant about that, and it is not too hard to be able to take care of them if we find them early enough. And so a lot of these are pesticides. I wrote down, you would go 634pest.org or 808-634-pest.org to work to stop those. So we looked at a number of different elements on those animals. So we had both the Department of Agriculture, the Kauaʻi Island, the Kauaʻi Invasive Species Council Committee, and then the Office of Economic Development. We've got 3 organizations that are really working together to try and help that. So I had a lot of joy seeing where we had good strategies in place and good collaboration. We had another thing for the CPACER grants, they're not grants, they're loans that can get placed with, I'll pause, go ahead and cough. You could go outside and cough too.
That was it.
Okay. The CPACER grants help with green investment, primarily for commercial buildings, but there was a bill passed at the state, so that's going to be covering it, so we no longer need that at a county level. So we deferred that. We basically stopped that. We call that received for the record, so that we don't need that one. We deferred a bill that we have coming up about potentially letting intoxicating liquors, is what it's called. It's like beer and wine at the stadiums. You know, if people get a special permit with the liquor commission, or to allow it to be out on the golf course at the Wailua Golf Course from our dispensary, a distributor that's going to be that's opening up at the golf course. And so do we want it to be in people's little golf carts as they're running around? So that one we deferred because today Chair Raposo, Vice Chair Kuali'i, and Council Member Bernard Carvalho were all still in Washington, D.C. And that was basically it, so it was a good conversation, and I think we learned a lot, and we didn't have to make very many difficult decisions. It was a little bit on a committee day, one where we're largely learning. So thank you so much, and I hope everybody has a great week. Certainly always feel that you can send council testimony at kauai.gov if you have opinions on these things, and tune in to Ho'ike on channel 53, and you can see the whole committee meeting. Thank you.